Hi, my name is Sarah Joy Roberts, and in this video I'm going to be showing you some backyard plants that can be used for pain management. So this first plant that we're looking at is wild lettuce. This plant can grow extremely tall. It can be taller than 6 feet. Usually this time of year, which is almost to the solstice, it hasn't begun to bloom yet. I always harvest this plant right when the flowers start to open because that is when it is at its peak. So wild lettuce is a mild opiate. It is non-addictive and it treats pain especially in children and people with sensitive constitutions. So you know this is wild lettuce because it will have this milky substance that comes out of it. And there'll be more of this right at its peak. If you break off the stalk, it will literally be pouring out. See that? So regular lettuce has been weakened, but it does come from this wild plant. So there's no opiate effect in like the lettuce that you grow in your garden. And if you were to eat this, it would be pretty bitter. You wouldn't really enjoy it in a salad. So wild lettuce cannot be used in tea form because the medicinal properties are alkaloids. So even tincturing it in alcohol is not enough. So what I do is I do a mixture of alcohol and apple cider vinegar. The apple cider vinegar is actually stronger at taking the alkaloids out of the plant and making it available for the human body. So this next plant is known of as teaberry, checkerberry, bearberry, or wintergreen. And this has aspirin in it, the main ingredient in aspirin. And what you do is you want to pick the leaves. I usually pick the leaves right when they start to flower, which is usually around this time. I'm not seeing any flowers now, so it must be it's probably gonna be just after the solstice that it starts to flower. And what I do is I will pick like one leaf off of each plant. I am lucky that I have a lot of wintergreen where I live, but you don't want to just go picking all the plants. It's kind of slow growing, and these darker leaves are from previous years. So what I'll do is I'll pick these nice fresh leaves, but I'll just pick one from each plant, make sure it doesn't have any bugs on it, and I'll put them in a basket. They're pretty thick, so they take a little time to dry. And this can be used in tea form. It's pretty strong and it's really tasty. So you don't need to use a lot of it. Usually if I'm just going to make 1 cup of tea, it might be just like 2 leaves that I cut up and put in. I do usually put it in something else, blackberry leaves or nettles. Sometimes I'll add some kava to it as a muscle relaxant. Kava does not grow around here. It's something that you would buy organically from distributors such as Mountain Rose Herbs out of Oregon. So this is sort of like aspirin, except for it doesn't have the side effect of the rebound headache or causing internal bleeding. It doesn't thin out your blood the way aspirin that you would buy over the counter does. So here we have oriental poppy. Most people are familiar with oriental poppy. This will be, when it first blooms, a little brighter orange, but not the deep red or the white or the blue of a more hybridized botanical poppy. So Again, it's an alkaloid, and it will have this milky substance that will be the most in the capsule. And the capsule is what forms once the flower has pollinated and goes into seed. And if you slit the capsule, then this white sticky substance known as latex will come out. And there are directions in a modern herbal about how to make a substance called laudanum. It's something I read about all the time in historical fiction, and it's used as a painkiller, but it is addictive. So I have never done that. How I use the poppy is I wait for the capsule to dry, and then it will have a much smaller amount of the pain-killing opioid in it. And I just use the dried capsule with the poppy seeds in it, and I add it to the wild lettuce and the wintergreen. I use scissors to macerate the plant matter. So I'm cutting it up with scissors to increase the surface area that the alcohol has to work on to extract the medicinal properties of the plants. I don't put these plants in a food processor. I cut them with scissors. And then I'll put them in a glass container and fill it up partway with 100% proof vodka. And then I'll top it off with the apple cider vinegar, always organic. And in that way, I'm helping to make sure all the alkaloids come out of the wild lettuce and the poppy. And this tincture I have used to help people get off of OxyContin. I've also used it for people who didn't want to take OxyContin after surgery. And it acts like a very strong ibuprofen. My 11-year-old used it for his migraines. I use it often for low back pain. So here you see the flower is fading, and you see the capsule that's inside. So these will fall off, and this will be even bigger. And if you were to just take a knife and slit it, you'd see all this white stuff oozing out. So this is a more ornamental poppy plant. This is really just for variety and a pretty flower. I would not use these capsules in making medicine. I would only use the oriental poppy. So most of you will know what this plant is. It is rose. This particular variety is Rosa rugosa, and it is a wild plant that especially is plentiful on the seashore of the northeast coast of America. And this is actually a Chinese herb used for qi stagnation, so pain due to qi stagnation. I use this especially in a tea I make for PMS, menstrual pain, and cramping. But it can also just be used for pain due to stress, frustration, stuck energy. And what I do is I will look for one that is just opening. So here we go. Right here, it looks perfect. And then I'll usually just take the whole thing. Well, that didn't work. But I'll usually take the whole thing or just pull the petals off. It's the petals that are medicinal. I don't use this part, and mostly I would dry them and use them in teas because it's the strongest form. And teas also act very quickly, and when I start having any menstrual cramping, I know I need to get my blood moon tea, and it usually works within 10 to 20 minutes, and I often only have to take it once. This is valerian. It is the root of this plant that is used. The flowers are pink and they're beautiful and they smell lovely, but if you dry them, they will smell like rotten feet, which is what the roots smell like. And valerian is the strongest muscle relaxant that we have in herbal form. It's often called nature's Valium, and it is used especially to help people sleep, but it is a muscle relaxant, and used on its own can help with tension in the back of your head, tension anywhere in the body. Can be used in tincture form. I wouldn't recommend the tea just because of the taste, and I personally don't use valerian. There is about 15% of humans that don't have the enzyme to convert the active constituent. So valerian will actually, instead of helping them sleep, it will rev them up. The first time I ever took valerian, I was awake all night. I felt like running around in the woods. It was awful. So I just don't take valerian, but many people find this herb very useful. This is chamomile, and chamomile is used especially for children, for calming them down and helping them sleep, but it is also used generally for mild stomach upset, so it can help with indigestion and stomach discomfort. So this chamomile is just starting to bloom, and it's usually right before this turns really yellow. It will have, the petals will be just coming out, and this is just about to turn yellow before I pick it. So I'm going to show you another plant. So here we have chamomile that is really overdone. I wouldn't pick it now it's too late. And then right here would be the one that I would pick. And I generally hand pick these and dry them and use them in teas. I actually use chamomile more for external use in bath tea, for psoriasis, itchy skin, eczema, but it's often used as a sleep aid or a mild digestive for stomach upset. Here is a yellow dock growing right out of my garden. Yellow dock and burdock are both used. I use them in arthritis formulas. They help with arthritis by decongesting the liver. Yellow dock is also used for people that have blockages in their gallbladder and liver, creating gallbladder pain. And it also helps with low iron levels. It actually increases your iron levels. Yellow dock is really good for people with a weak constitution. So very safe to use to cleanse the liver, even in debilitated people. And the part used is the root. The root is yellow, and that's why it's called yellow dock. There's my kitty cat. So you dig it up, you'd throw away the top of the plant, and then cut the root up. And this I dry it. I usually will dry this. I'll cut very thin slices and stick it in my oven. I don't even turn the oven on. I've got a oven with a pilot light, so I just let it sit there for a couple days, and it keeps anything from molding. But you can just dig it up, cut it up, stick it in some 100 proof alcohol, let it sit for 6 weeks, and strain it out, and there you have your yellow dock tincture. And here we have red clover. Red clover is one of the greatest herbs. It's very plentiful, it's everywhere. When picking herbs, you really don't want to pick herbs anywhere near the side of the road. They will be contaminated by oil, tar, and salt that's laid down in the winter. So always pick herbs away from the road. Never plant a garden right up against a road. So red clover I use in arthritic formulas. It helps the liver decongest, and therefore is very useful in arthritis and arthritic pain. I also use red clover in allergy formulas and cough formulas for kids because it does help respiratory disease, especially by clearing the liver. It is estrogenic, so if you have an estrogen-linked cancer, you probably should avoid it, but some people do use red clover instead of HRT for hot flashes and menopause. And when you pick red clover, you want to pick it, so see, you want to pick it right below the second leaf. So here would be the first one and here would be the second one. And sometimes there'll even be another flower coming off. And you also want to pick it before it goes to full bloom. So this one is pretty perfect because there are no dead flowers on it. As soon as you start to see, here's one with a lot of dead flowers. You would not want to pick and dry that and use it for medicinal purposes. This one right here, this one is okay. It's really good. So even this one here, where it's just starting to open, what happens is you pick this and you put it somewhere dark and cool and drafty. You want to get air flowing when you dry herbs or you'll get mold, especially red clover, because it is pretty thick. There's a lot of moisture in there. You want it to dry thoroughly. So as this dries, it will continue to bloom and it will actually be more open. And this one right here, this is okay because it still doesn't have any dead flowers on it. But right here, this one you can see there, some of the flowers in the red clover are just starting to die. So I wouldn't bother picking this one. So very, very specific about which red clovers I pick. Right here, you can see the wild lettuce in the background. See, that's a little one. In about a month, that one will probably be like 4 feet tall. They grow pretty quickly. This red clover right here, that's perfect to pick. The smell is amazing, and I use this in tea forms, and I tincture it. The tincture is what I usually use in the allergy formulas and the arthritis formulas, but the tea form I use in teas for stress and for the liver, but I also use it in tea forms for contact dermatitis, psoriasis, eczema, itchy skin diseases, because it does help detox the blood and the liver. So also used for breast cancer because it also cleanses the lymph. Very, very important, great herb. Red clover, plentiful, easy to find. This plant here is Solomon seal. You can see there are still some flowers hanging on there. And this herb is found in the woods. I've planted this one here trying to keep it in the shade. It is a shade plant. And the part that's used is the root. And you dig it up, you wash it off, and you slice it into pieces and dry it, or you can put it in a tincture. I use this more for inflammation in the lungs and chest with pneumonia or bronchitis, but it can be used as an anti-inflammatory for back pain. It tastes really good. It tastes like almonds. And this is a bonus plant. This is known as Dutchman's pipe, and in fact the flowers do look like old pipes, old tobacco pipes. I love this plant. I think it is gorgeous. It is a climbing plant. It is medicinal. It's used as a tonic to calm the stomach, promote urination, and increase perspiration. I personally do not use this medicinally. The active ingredient is aristolochic acid. It's a potent gastric irritant that in large doses can cause respiratory paralysis. So in my mind, this is just not safe enough to use medicinally. We don't really need to use it medicinally because we have chamomile and other herbs to use, like increasing perspiration. You can use yarrow, bone set really easily. Promoting urination, you can use wild yam, shin leaf. But I love this herb because it's just so cute, and I think if there were little hobbit and gnome spirits, they'd surely be around this plant. So thank you for watching this video on backyard plants. We'll be sure to bring you more information. If you continue to want to watch my channel, please subscribe, hit likes. It's a new channel, so it's much appreciated. Thank you, and have an absolutely lovely, gorgeous day.